Greetings, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'd like to take a break from my year-by-year look at science fiction films of the past to look at the year that was 2023. I'm not going to do a best of, worst of list like everyone else does at this time of year, but I would like to just rant for a bit, kind of half rambling, half ranting, and discuss the state of sci-fi today and where we're likely to go in 2024 and beyond. This was the first year in a while that big-budget sci-fi CGI extravaganzas didn't dominate at the worldwide box office. Superheroes, sequels, prequels, and established properties that used to be money in the bank for Hollywood studios almost entirely failed with critics and audiences. The year was dominated by failures and excuses about the state of genre films. The realm of science fiction has expanded significantly in the last century, now housing a spectrum of subgenres including superhero and post-apocalyptic flicks, space operas, and films that infuse everyday scenarios with elements of science fiction. The superhero subgenre is still the most talked about, but in 2023, it was for all the wrong reasons. Some analysts are still blaming the lockdowns, and others blamed the writer strikes and actor strikes in the United States from May to November. And don't forget about good old superhero fatigue. But in reality, there's rising cost for tickets, quality of movie theaters themselves, and during the lockdowns, people were trained by the same studios who are now crying about how people don't go to see their movies anymore, to just watch at home. And just a quick side note, if you're enjoying the content, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Your support is what keeps this channel thriving, and I am genuinely thankful for all your support. I started this channel back in August, and it's already exceeded my expectations by the end of the year. I'm grateful for every subscriber, every viewer, and we're going to have a great 2024. The bright spots in film of this year were mostly outside the sci-fi genre. This was the year a doll dominated the box office and cultural zeitgeist. It was the year one biopic about one of the most famous men in history produced a great trailer filled with battles and drama, but ultimately failed with critics and audiences. Meanwhile, another biopic about a scientist made almost $1 billion at the box office. Dune Part 2, which was supposed to finally release this fall, but was moved to the spring of 2024 because the actors couldn't promote the film due to the strikes. But I also think the fact that Warner Brothers had no money to promote the film also aided in their decision. Superhero fatigue was the excuse of the year. In actuality, it was more like we're tired of crappy CGI and boring stories with 3-hour runtime fatigue. Studios know the writing is on the wall, and films that were supposed to release in 2024 have been moved to 2025 and beyond and are currently being retooled. Captain America: Brave New World is being almost entirely reshot. The Avengers: Kang Dynasty is now just Avengers 5 after legal troubles with actor Jonathan Majors. This is still a developing story at the time of recording this video. Thunderbolts hasn't even started filming yet, and the Disney Plus superhero shows are led by Echo and Agatha: Coven of Chaos. As of the recording of this video, we still don't have a cast for Fantastic Four, but Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby are currently rumored to star. As far as superheroes are concerned, family-friendly Disney will have to rely on the merc with a mouth, Deadpool, as their 2024 savior. And then there's DC. James Gunn is about to officially take over, and his slate of films will begin filming in 2024, but the end of the DCEU is with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It's the sequel to a $1 billion film that is tracking so poorly that Warner Brothers staged small fan events with Jason Momoa and director James Wan, instead of glitzy Hollywood premieres. Their big LA premiere was held with fans at a shopping mall. Superheroes couldn't save the box office this year like they could in the last few years, and so other genres had to step up. Barbie couldn't save Warner Brothers all by herself. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 couldn't save Marvel, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 couldn't save Paramount. Studios will have to find other ways to make money and survive. So let's get into the sci-fi films of 2023. I'll start with the flops since there were a lot of them. The Marvels, like Aquaman, was a sequel to a previous $1 billion film. Then there's The Flash, with controversial actor Ezra Miller. Shazam came and went, and both of those were from the beleaguered DCEU. It seems like ages ago, but Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was also a big-budget sci-fi lemon. And I'll just mention Transformers: Rise of the Beast here, another flop to a series that should have been killed off long ago. Indies and mid-budget films didn't fare much better. 65 and The Creator were the most well-publicized failures in this budget range, while films like Fingernails, Foe, ISS, The Shift, The Pod Generation, They Cloned Tyrone all came and went with little fanfare. Most either started on streaming or quickly hit streaming after a brief and not-so-memorable theatrical run. There were the usual number of sequels with Bird Box Barcelona, The Meg 2, a Babylon 5 film I didn't even know existed. China released a sequel to its 2019 international hit, The Wandering Earth, and had a brief theatrical run in the US before moving to streaming. The dystopian speculative fiction film The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is relatively new, but should end up turning a profit for Lionsgate, one of the rare successes this year. Nevertheless, there were a few bright spots. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a sequel to the Oscar-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, did well over the summer, as well as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which finished off James Gunn's run at Marvel with a bang. The underdog of the year was Godzilla Minus One, a Japanese film made for less than $15 million and proved to be so popular it's already getting a black and white re-release in 2024. It's these three films that will probably be the only sci-fi that may go on to win Oscars in the technical categories. The only Oscar contender that will probably compete in the non-technical categories will be one that some may not even see as sci-fi. Yorgos Lanthimos' sci-fi black comedy, Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, will probably go on to get nominations in writing, acting, directing, and Best Picture, along with cinematography, production design, costumes, and hair and makeup. The overall box office totals are at about $8.5 billion at the time I'm recording this, and don't look for the release of Aquaman 2 to really help with those totals very much. And that may sound impressive on the surface, but when you factor in the totals for the top three films of the year, Barbie, Super Mario Bros., and Oppenheimer, three non-sci-fi films, earned $3.7 billion alone. According to an article in Screen Rant, only one Hollywood film with a budget of over $200 million turned a profit in 2023. Out of the 14 big-budget, overpriced, CGI-heavy films, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 made any money. The main difficulty with these big-budget films to turn a profit is that even with a $200 million budget, they would need to make at least $500 million at the worldwide box office to begin to break even, once you factor in promotion, publicity, and the cut theaters take before the studios. The three highest-grossing films of the year, regardless of genre, all cost under $150 million: Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Super Mario Bros. But is that really something to brag about? For Hollywood studios to start turning more of a profit, they need to stop spending so much on a single film These large-budget sci-fi films are now failing to earn back a cent and are critical and audience failures to boot. Films can make $600 to $700 million and still be flops because of their budgets. Mid-budget sci-fi is getting lost, and low-budget indies are either ignored or go straight to streaming. So what's my overall impression of the year? I'll admit I'm not much of a superhero girl, and I don't go out of my way to see them in theaters, but I do appreciate a well-crafted film in any subgenre of science fiction, and though Guardians of the Galaxy was okay, it wound up being the best of the superhero bunch this year. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was a cool sequel, but the best sci-fi film of the year was Godzilla Minus One, and I'm glad to see small-budget films in any genre kicking ass at the worldwide box office. I have yet to see Foe and The Wandering Earth 2, but they're on my list of films that were not widely publicized that I'd still like to see. Before moving to my final thoughts and lessons of 2023, I just wanted to touch briefly on television series of this year. The reviews for shows fared better than film, but there were only a few successes, and the definition of success unfortunately changes based on where you fall politically. If you follow the culture wars online, you know that many of today's genre films and TV shows are critiqued not on merit, but by the real or perceived political messages enclosed in the project. Some saw Ahsoka and Loki as successes, while others saw them as woke propaganda. But Secret Invasion was a massive failure, and the newest Black Mirror came and went. But let's be fair, that show hasn't been good since Netflix got involved. The biggest surprise to me this year was Star Trek Picard. I gave up on the property long ago, but enjoyed this brief return to the quality of better days gone by. Most sci-fi TV was buried under the weight of more talked-about series outside sci-fi, like Succession and The Bear. Most quality sci-fi shows are unfortunately on streaming services many don't subscribe to. For All Mankind, Foundation, Gen V, Bodies, Twisted Metal, and Mrs. Davis came and went, and only a few paid attention. The Walking Dead was still kicking with 2 shows, and Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, tried to capitalize on the big monster lore, but didn't get much interest. Beacon 23, a series starring Game of Thrones' Lena Headey, was just renewed, and I'd be surprised if you've ever even heard of it. And Silo on Apple TV was one of the year's best reviewed shows. It was the post-apocalyptic drama The Last of Us that was the biggest hit of the year, garnering ratings, critical and audience acclaim, and will probably go on to win some Emmys in January. It's easy to say that the state of the genre is unhealthy. Too many years of sequels, prequels, remakes, and superhero films have damaged the genre. The need to add CGI to everything, regardless of genre, have hurt as well. There are so many digital effects artists and hours in the day, and if everything is CGI, then the quality goes way down. The sci-fi flops will be remembered more than the successes. The big surprise was Godzilla Minus One, and the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Across the Spider-Verse were the only profitable sci-fi major Hollywood studio films of the year. Mid-budget films like 65 and The Creator failed, making it more difficult for films in this budget range to get greenlit in the future. Movies like Arrival and District 9 just won't get made because studios won't take a chance. Dune Part 2 is the most anticipated sci-fi film yet to be released, but we're still in for a slew of sequels and established properties in 2024. A Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel, another Godzilla vs. Kong, another Transformers, and Furiosa, a prequel to Mad Max: Fury Road. A sci-fi movie I'm looking forward to in 2024 is a non-superhero, non-sequel, non-prequel. Mickey 17, from Parasite director Bong Joon-ho, and starring Robert Pattinson. Any lessons from 2023 won't be realized until 2025 at the earliest. Most films coming out in 2024 are either completed or are too far into production to change course. The only way the film industry will learn the lessons of this year is if 2024 brings more of the same results and failures. I don't want films to fail, but I do want Hollywood to learn from their mistakes. If original properties and smaller budgets are successes in 2024, that will help move the genre forward. Superhero films are ending their reign, and Hollywood doesn't know what will replace it. The success of Godzilla -1, as well as the failure of most $200 million films, will hopefully lead to more positive trends in trusting international and smaller budget films to breathe and succeed. Let good writers do their jobs, and don't just throw CGI at the screen and hope for the best. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a great 2023, and I'm looking forward to 2024. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos about the history of sci-fi cinema.